there, welcome to my video. This is Laura Lynn with Keep Inking Up. I'm an independent demonstrator for Stampin' Up in San Antonio, Texas. And earlier this week, I shared this card on my social media. I think it's a very pretty card, and it uses the Happiness Abounds stamp set and bundle. Actually, the bundle for the Happiness Abounds because I cut out the images. But I posted this on my my social media, and a very dear friend Janice asked me to do a video on how I watercolored these flowers. So Janice, I hope that this video helps you out quite a bit and that you will give it a try. So what I do want to say, and I told Janice that I do not claim to be a watercolor artist. I am very new to watercoloring, and I will say that watercolor is one of those kinds of things that probably just gets better and better with practice. So I just want to put that out there that I am not an expert. If you want to learn how to watercolor, I do suggest that you take a watercolor class from someone who knows what they're doing. I am a stamper who tried to do a little bit of watercoloring, and I was pretty happy with the results. I think it's a very pretty card. I think these are very pretty flowers. I do have another card too because I did watercolor several flowers, and again, I think they're very pretty, but they're definitely not artist level. But I wanted to go ahead and share with you how I did my watercoloring in case you want to give it a try as well. So I did do a couple of things ahead of time just to speed things up, even though this video will still likely get a little bit long. But what I did is I heat embossed, and hopefully you can see that on here. I know it's hard to see on video, but I can see them. I heat embossed the flower, the large flower from the Happiness Abounds stamp set, this one right here. I'm thinking it's a peony. I'm not sure. It could be a open wild rose. If anyone knows exactly what this flower is, please leave it in the comments and let me know what you think it is. I think it's a peony. I'm going to say it's a peony. But anyway, I stamped this flower with first some mark ink, and then I heat embossed it with our white Stampin' Emboss powder. And I did that on watercolor paper. Now what I want to make clear is the most important aspect of watercoloring is that you use watercolor paper. We are going to be adding quite a bit of water. I have a little water jar right here, and we're going to be using our water painters to do the painting, but it's very important that you use watercolor paper. We're going to be adding quite a bit of water during this process, and regular cardstock just won't hold up to it. It doesn't absorb the paper, it doesn't absorb the water into the paper, but watercolor paper does. So the most important aspect of all of this is to use watercolor paper. Now, like I said, I heat embossed this image. Now, you don't have to. You can certainly watercolor if you use Stays On ink, because that's a permanent alcohol ink, and it will not bleed when you go and add water to it, unlike our water-based inks that we're going to be using to watercolor with. But I like to do the heat embossing because it kind of creates a little bit of a well for the water to be contained and not spread around the rest of the paper. So that's just a personal preference, and like I said, I'm just sharing what I did for these flowers. Whether it's right or wrong, I'm not sure. This is just the process that I did. So I have 3 flowers on here actually, in case I mess up and need to start over. But anyway, so I have a piece of watercolor paper with some heat embossed images on there, and I am going to open up my water painters. And our water painters, if you're not familiar with them, it comes in a pack of 3 now. One is a very wide brush, which is great for creating like a wash of a background, so a large area of painting, but that's not what we're going to be doing. And then there's a medium brush, so you can see that, which is a lovely size for your just general painting. I'm going to actually use the smallest brush because I want to get into the little crevices of the petals of this particular image. So our water painters are awesome because you have water in the barrel. And oh, I also have a rag handy. So you can squeeze the water in the handle, and that can bring water down in through your brush. And that's a great way to use it. But I'm going to be using quite a bit of water, so that's why I have this little container of water here. And you'll see as I go along that I'll use a combination of both. I'll use the water from the brush, and I'll use the water from my little jar. So the very first thing that I'm going to do to my embossed images, I'm gonna just, let's see, we'll just use this one right here. I'm going to dip my brush into the water because I want a lot of water, and I am just going to, I hope I don't get my head in the way, I am just going to add water over the entire flower image. And I'm adding quite a bit of water to begin with, and what this is doing, is just kind of preparing the image that I want to get painted. I'm not going outside of the perimeter of the lines. I'm not worrying about the middle or anything. I'm trying to stay inside the perimeter of the image. And you can do this technique with any image. I just happen to be using this floral image. So let's go, I'm gonna go around, and I'm moving my paper as I go to make it more convenient for me. So now hopefully you can see that it's all wet. It's not sopping wet, but it's all has a little bit of water on it. Oh, I should have done this before. What we're gonna be doing is we're gonna be painting with the Orchid Oasis, which is the new in color. If you follow me at all, you know this is my favorite of the new in colors because it's a purpley blue, and I'm a purple girl, I love it. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use a clear block, and I'm going to grab some ink, and that's gonna be my ink palette. Now some people like to squeeze the ink pad to put ink in the lid of the stamp pad. I just don't like to do that. I think it's kind of messy, but if that's what you want to do, that's fine. This is what I do. Again, I'm just sharing the process that I did. So I have quite a bit of ink here on my clear block, and hopefully that didn't, I might add just a little bit more water back in here. Okay, so now I'm just gonna grab a little bit of ink from my block, and I'm going to start painting my entire flower just with a light wash of this blue. I'm going to try to get the entire thing, and I don't want a lot of color at this point, so I can just kind of pull the color out, and because I added that water ahead of time, it's going to move really easily but be contained within the embossed image because I embossed it. So I'm just adding this on. I think I need a little bit more. I'll start in the middle because that's where I'm going to be adding color later. But I just want to add a really light wash of whatever color that I'm using over the entire image. And this is just kind of like the prep work of it. So hopefully you can see that. I just have a light wash. Hopefully you can see that pretty well on there. A light wash of color. Oops, doesn't matter. All around my entire image. Now I'm going to go in and I'm going to pick up color. I'm going to find the base of the petals, and I'm going to add more color. And you can see, because I still have a lot of water on here, that it's kind of bleeding in to the petal, but I'm just putting color at the base of the petals, and I'm just moving my flower around so I can easily reach. And I'll keep grabbing a little bit of color. I'm not squeezing the barrel or anything. I'm not adding more water at this time. I'm just adding color at the base of each petal. And I'm going to do that for all of the petals. So I'm going to go around here and just add a little bit of color at the base. Keep grabbing color. I'm not trying to blend yet. I'm just adding color. One of the things that I've learned is about contrast. What we want to do is create a contrast of color. You see how it's all kind of bleeding because I added that water prior to my image, but I'm just adding dark color at the base of the petals. Okay. Okay, so I've just added a little bit of color at the base of each petal, and now it's basically just layering more color at the base of each of those petals until I'm happy with the flower. Now I'll go in occasionally and I'm going to squeeze my barrel to clean off my, oh, it's kind of over here on the side, but I'm squeezing to clear out my brush, because now I want to add a little bit of water, and I want to soften those lines the ones that do have lines. Some of them don't really have lines, but I'm just adding clear water to soften the edges that were created when I added that little bit of color. Try to blend that out to the edges of the petals. Okay. And I'll just blend until I kind of like the way each petal looks. Trying to get rid of those lines. As it dries, you will have lines. That's part of the appeal, I think, to watercoloring, are those lines. And so you don't always want to get rid of them all, but at this stage, I'm trying to blend it as well as I can. So that looks pretty good. So again, I'm going to just keep cleaning my brush, and I'm going to just keep adding a little bit more color. I'm going to layer because I want to get that contrast up. I want to be able to see the darkness at the base of each petal really strongly. So I'm just going to keep picking up color. And as you do this, you'll really see the dimension of the flower or whatever image that you're painting really kind of come through. And hopefully you can see that as it's happening. You'll notice that I'm leaving some areas the completely light color. Remember when we did the original wash of the color? So like these little folded over parts of the flowers, I'm leaving them the lightest color. That's just the way that I'm choosing to color my flower, and you can do it however you would like. So hopefully you can see. I'm going to go ahead and clean my brush again. I'm going to go back and just add plain water again, just to blend things out and to get rid of any kind of harsh lines. Now if you like that harsh line look, by all means you leave it the way you do. Like I said, this is just the process of what I did in creating my flowers. I was trying to help Janice understand how I did this. Okay, I think I'm going to add a little bit more in the center of the flower just to give that a little bit more contrast. And there you go. That's basically all I did. So hopefully you can kind of see how that is, how it really adds dimension, and you just keep adding the darker color at the base of the petals until you have the look that you want for your flower. So I did want to go ahead and share with you some of the other images that I have colored using this same exact process. I was having kind of a lot of fun doing this in my practice to try to prepare to do this, but you can see this one has a little bit of lines in it here and there, but I still think it's a really pretty flower. Here's one that's dry that uses the same color that we just did, and you can really see some, I think they call it blooming. I'm not sure. There's a term in watercolor world for that, but just so pretty. And I did several in other colors. I think this is the Sweet Sorbet. Really like that color. So pretty. This one's Fresh Freesia. It's a lighter color, so it was a little harder for me to get the contrast that I was going for, like I did in the example that we shared today. There's quite a bit more contrast in this. I think it's because it's a lighter color, but it's still really pretty. And I have several of those, I think. Here's another Sweet Sorbet one. Fresh Freesia. There's another Orchid Oasis. It has a little bit of lines, and you can keep going back as much as you want to get rid of the lines, soften them as much as you want. But anyway, here's some leaves too. I did these with Granny Apple Green. And there's some, oh, you can do this for any of the images. So here's some other flowers that I did. This was the Closed Rose, and this one's, I think this is with Coastal Cabana ink. And this one is the Mango Melody, I think, at the other rose. I really like, I think I did a pretty good job on that one. I love how the petals really blend really nicely on that one. And here's, I think this is Gorgeous Grape on one of the other images. So you can do this on any image, but I also wanted to share that if you're not going to try watercoloring, you don't need to. You can certainly use your blends. And so these are the same flowers using our Stampin' Blend. So this is using Highland Heather. I stamped it in Gorgeous Grape, and then I colored it with Highland Heather and did the same kind of thing, adding the contrast at the base of the petals and then blended it out. As you can see, sometimes I didn't blend as well as others. You can see lines on that one, but some of the others are a little more soft. And same thing, this was, I'm not sure, that might be Mango Melody. We don't carry that one blend anymore, but I think this is Coastal Cabana with Bermuda Bay blends. And this one is, it looks like, I think it's Calypso Coral. So again, the same thing, I just blended from the base of the petals. But my point is that you can color these images from the Happiness Abounds with either doing the watercolor technique like I shared with you today, or you can use your Stampin' Blends. Another thing is, if you don't want to color at all, you don't really have to. What I did on my sampler that I included inside my stamp case is I actually stamped and cut these images out of colored cardstock, which means I can use these instead of something that's colored. So if you don't want to color with blends or with watercolor, you can certainly, let me pull in one of these. If you don't want to watercolor or use Stampin' Blends, you can stamp the image on colored cardstock and still come out with a gorgeous image. So this is a really fun stamp set. So thank you so much for joining me for this watercolor tutorial. Again, I'm not an expert, but I think they still are rather pretty. Here's the one that we just did. You can kind of see how it's drawing, and there's some lines in there, and I could, if I wanted to, go back and add more water. Because this is watercolor paper, I can go back and add more water to blend those even more, but I think that looks really good. So anyway, thanks Janice for asking me to do this tutorial. It's a little bit out of my comfort zone because I don't feel comfortable saying that I'm a watercolor artist, because I am not. I am a stamper, but I had some fun with watercoloring. So I hope that you learned something from these few tips that I shared with you today, and we'll give this a try. I will say, if you do get frustrated when you first start out, because I certainly did, just keep trying, just keep practicing, and you'll get better and better, and you'll be so happy with your images once you practice a little bit. So thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.